The rain hit the cracked pavement in slow, steady taps, each drop bouncing off the rust-streaked hood of a bus that hadn't known a new coat of paint in years. Inside, it smelled like wet seats, old gum, and a faint trace of yesterday's coffee. The city was crawling along, same as always, fast in noise, slow in change. But that morning, something quiet happened. Something small, the kind of thing nobody notices, except it changed everything. He was just a kid. 16, maybe 17. Black hoodie pulled low over his forehead, earbuds tucked in, shoulders hunched like the world weighed a little too much. His name was Tariq. He didn't speak much, but he saw everything. Every tired face, every forced smile, every sideways glance that lasted just a little too long. He wasn't invisible, but he might as well have been. People looked past him the way you do, when you've learned not to expect anything good. But he was used to that. The bus jerked to a stop, the air brakes hissing like some angry beast trying to sleep. More people piled on, coats dripping, eyes glazed over with routine. A woman stepped on, clutching her swollen belly with one hand, the other gripping a plastic grocery bag that looked too thin for how full it was. Her blonde hair was soaked to the roots, her coat stretched tight across her stomach, and she winced every time the bus rocked. No one moved. Tariq saw her. Not because he was trying to do anything special, not because he thought it'd make a difference. He just saw her. So he stood up, didn't say a word, just offered his seat and nodded. She looked stunned for a second, then sat with a quiet, "Thank you." Her voice trembled a little, like she wasn't used to kindness anymore. She kept watching. Him, even as he gripped the pole and tried not to fall with every lurch of the bus. Her eyes lingered like maybe she was waiting for something more. Maybe wondering why a kid who probably had his own problems would even care. Maybe she'd never been offered a seat before. Maybe she just knew that whatever was in her grocery bag, it wasn't the heaviest thing she carried that day. When she got off a few stops later, she paused. She hesitated like she wanted to say something. Then she reached into her coat, pulled out a folded piece of paper and handed it to him. Just slipped it into his hand, smiled like she knew something he didn't, and stepped off into the rain. Stared at the note, confused. It was just a plain piece of paper, creased in half and slightly damp from her fingers. He opened it slowly. The words inside weren't long, but they stopped him cold. Meanwhile, far beyond Earth, beyond its broken skies and politics and rusting cities, something ancient stirred in the void. It was not a planet, not a station. It was a ship. Black as forgotten memories, wide as a continent, and humming with something no scanner could decode. The Adrestia was awake. Humanity had been banished centuries ago, cast out from the core worlds, after the last Concord broke apart like a dropped glass. We were exiled for our violence, our unpredictability, our refusal to bend. The others said we were dangerous, unfit, primitive. They took the stars, the trade lanes, the councils, and they left us with Earth, broken and boiling, its cities half sunk, its skies choking. No ship had returned to the galactic fold since, until now Tariq didn't know anything about warships or politics, or exiled civilizations clawing their way back from extinction. But that note held coordinates, a place, a name, and something else, a sentence that read more like prophecy than a message. You were never just a passenger. He didn't understand what it meant. Not yet. But that night, as he sat on his small bed in a one-room apartment that always smelled like burned toast and linoleum, he stared at the stars through a cracked window and wondered what it would feel like to leave. He didn't know he already had, because in the cold black beyond, the Adrestia was no longer drifting. It had locked onto a signal, old Earth code, human code, a warship lost to myth, waking up to a voice it had been waiting centuries to hear. The signal came from a city bus, from a boy with tired eyes, from a note that should have meant nothing, but it meant everything, and someone, something, was listening. Now, deep within the ship's neural core, a set of eyes opened. Not human, not thin, but something else entirely, and it spoke his name, Tariq. But what that voice wanted, and what the warship was about to do, would not only break the banishment, it would start a war. To be continued. The apartment was silent except for the soft ticking of an old analog clock on the wall. It didn't really keep time anymore. It lagged behind by about 13 minutes. But Tariq liked it. Something about the steady rhythm felt real in a world that never stayed still. He sat on the edge of his bed, fingers clutching that wrinkled piece of paper like it might vanish if he let go. Outside, the rain hadn't stopped, but the streetlights gave the wet pavement a kind of glow, like the world was waiting for something. And maybe it was. He read the note again. Slowly. Carefully. You were never just a passenger. Underneath that, a string of numbers and letters that looked like coordinates, but they didn't match anything he could recognize. Not GPS, not local maps, not any kind of address. He'd already tried plugging them into his phone. Nothing. It was like they belonged somewhere else entirely. The woman hadn't seemed strange, just tired, just ordinary. But now, the way she looked at him replayed in his mind, like she knew more than she let on. Like she'd been waiting for him. And maybe that's what scared him the most. The idea that his small, forgettable moment on a bus wasn't so small after all. He folded the note and slid it into a beat-up journal he kept in his backpack. Not that he wrote much, just scraps. Doodles, a few pages of half-formed thoughts. But something about putting it in there felt right. Like tucking it away would make the weight of it easier to carry. He didn't know it yet, but someone else was already looking for that note. Someone who hadn't walked the earth in generations. Far above the planet, beyond the satellites, there was movement. Silent, deliberate. A network of ancient beacons, deactivated long ago, forgotten by everyone but a few historians and conspiracy forums, lit up one by one. Each signal relayed to the next, a chain of light across the dark, until it reached something massive. The Adrestia, the ship had been sleeping for over 300 years. A relic of war, a legend in the outer colonies, a ghost in official records. No one had ever expected it to return, especially not on its own. But the moment Tariq touched that note, something deep inside the ship recognized his signal. Not his voice, not his face, his DNA, his bloodline. He didn't know his grandfather had been part of the last exodus. Didn't know his mother, who never talked much about her past, had once been selected for a long-dead resettlement program that was shut down before she was born. He didn't know that inside his body, hidden in dormant genes and encrypted cellular, Dewey was the last access key to one of humanity's most powerful lost assets, a key only the Adrestia could read. And now it was awake. Back on Earth, Tariq tried to shake the feeling that something had shifted. At school the next day, everything felt a little off. The hallways buzzed like always, lockers slammed, teachers droned on about tests and essays, but it all felt distant, like background noise. He caught himself staring out the windows, searching for something he couldn't name, a shape in the sky, a sign, anything. His best friend Jordan noticed. "You good?" she asked, nudging him with an elbow as they sat in the back of English class. "Yeah, just tired," he lied, eyes flicking back to the journal in his backpack. Jordan wasn't the kind of person you could fool easily. She raised an eyebrow but let it go, at least for now. She'd known Tariq since middle school. He was quiet but not secretive, thoughtful, honest. But now he looked like someone carrying a secret big enough to crush him. That night he walked home alone, earbuds in, hoodie up. The air felt heavier than usual, like the clouds were pressing. He didn't notice the figure watching him from the alley across the street. A man in a long, dark coat standing too still, eyes hidden behind reflective lenses. He wasn't from the city, wasn't from Earth either. The woman from the bus had been a sentinel, a human, yes, but trained, embedded, and waiting. One of the last sleepers placed on Earth generations ago to watch for signs of the return. Most had died out or faded into ordinary life. But she'd known. She'd felt the pulse shift the moment the Adrestia stirred. And when she saw Tariq stand up for her, when she made contact, her mission was complete. She'd delivered the coordinates to the key. Now it was only a matter of time before others noticed. In low Earth orbit, a stealth relay satellite blinked to life. Not human tech, sleek, seamless, and designed to monitor forbidden activity. It was built by the Yisari, one of the ruling species of the Galactic Accord. They had been the most vocal about humanity's banishment, warning that if even a single human warship returned, the balance would shatter. That satellite picked up the Adrestia's activation, and the message it sent back was clear. Humanity has broken the silence. Below, in his tiny apartment, Tariq finally opened the journal again. He stared at the coordinates. A strange urge filled him, something primal. Like his bones remembered something his mind didn't. He didn't know why, but the longer he looked at them, the more he felt pulled, like gravity, toward a place that wasn't on any map. The Adrestia was no longer waiting, and someone else had just found the same note. Far across the ocean, in a crumbling underground base abandoned since the early Banishment era, a warning system blared to life. The sensors scanned the data and confirmed the source, Earth. A human key had been activated. Protocol 7 triggered. Old names lit up on dead screens. One of them belonged to someone still alive, someone who had sworn they'd never go back. She looked at the data, heart pounding. It can't be, she whispered. But it was. The warship had returned, and with it the boy, Tariq. What he was now was much more than just a passenger, and what he was about to awaken in the stars might tear everything apart. The real question was, who would reach him first, and would they be coming to protect him or to stop him? To be continued.